Welcome, my name is Baron, and this is my channel where I talk about some book stuff. I'm the Book Baron. Welcome in. So today I wanted to talk to you about some of the spiciest books that I have read. Now, I'll preface this and say that this is completely based on my memory, so it's memorable, spicy books. I don't want to ramble too long before getting into this, but don't forget to like this video if you end up liking it, and subscribe if you want more content from me, and comment down below and let me know what the spiciest book is that you have read to date if you're a spicy romance reader. I actually have 12 different books to recommend for you that I think fall into this category of memorable and extremely spicy. I did organize these from the least read and rated on Goodreads to the most. Hopefully you get a recommendation that you haven't heard before. First up, I have Fate at Fault by Andy Sims. This is a recent read of mine. This is a very short novella. It's taboo, menage, stepkids, widow. There's a lot going on in this book. So Stacy has lost her husband, and since his passing has learned quite a bit about him. He was a big fat liar, it turns out. One of the things that he lied about, or simply forgot to tell her, is that she has stepkids. They are in town for the funeral, and there ends up being a lot of tension. I'll say that there seems like there could be a lot of really juicy plot. There's almost none. It's pretty much all spice. Heads up about that, because I'll be honest, I was really curious about the plot of this one. I kind of hope she turns it into a full-length novel. Let's move right along. Next up, I have The Hat Trick by Maddie Danielle. This is a hockey why choose sort of a fake boyfriend. This one has a very fanficky feel to it. There is like some plot that's set up, but it's kind of pretty much entirely abandoned. So if you're just looking for something spicy and fun that you're not thinking a lot about, this is a good option. So this is about Chandler. She broke up with her ex-boyfriend about a year ago. She goes to a local festival in town and ends up running into him and his new wife. She is absolutely mortified because she's still grieving this relationship, and in the process she is saved by famous hockey star Vince. So Vince ends up saving her from this awkward interaction and then says, you know what, maybe let's go on a real date. Maybe I want to really be your boyfriend. That evolves into not only him, but his hockey buddies being in on the action. Like I said, there's a zero plot to this. This is just a fun time. I wouldn't put too much thought into this book at all, but a little bit of a spicy sports romance for you. Next up, I have Lessons in Blackmail by Katie Robichaud. So this is going to be, I hate saying reverse age gap, but it's age gap where the woman is slightly older. It's like a dark romance and has some like dom sub BDSM. This is about Nathaniel, who has taken an interest in Evelyn. Evelyn has just graduated from college. This is her first job as a librarian at a private rich high school, and she thinks she's just made it, but Nathaniel is making her life hell. She has him for study hall, and he loves to make her squirm. Little does she know that he has actually become absolutely obsessed with her. One day, he decides that, you know what, harassing her at school isn't enough for him. He wants to take this into the real world. So he follows her home and learns a dirty little secret of hers. He uses this to blackmail her and get what he wants. Next up is one that I really hesitated to put on here because it is a dark romance. And just a reminder, in general, please be a responsible reader and check trigger warnings if you have any, especially with this one. This one's particularly dark. It has been banned off of Kindle.
Wouldn't it be great if I actually told you the title of this book? It's Captured by Lauren Beale. All right, back to it.
So it's captive dark romance. It kind of leans into some horror elements. And I will say that there is a fair amount of dub-con and non-con, which is why I hesitated to put it on here, but it evolves. It evolves. We have Alexander, and he has been kind of trained and beaten down by both his father and now his brother, where he really thinks that he can only connect with people through harming them. He doesn't think he can have real emotional connections with people in general. He has his eye on this waitress that's at a local diner that he frequents, and that woman's name is Ophelia. She's just barely scraping by in life. She's not making a ton of money. She's supporting not only herself, but her abusive alcoholic father, but she's noticed Alexander at the diner. Unfortunately, Alexander's interest in her takes a dark turn, and he decides that he wants to take her captive. So he, along with the help of his brother, ends up taking her from the diner where she works. Xander recognizes his thought process is very twisted, but he feels like this is the only way he can relate to people and the only way he can really have a relationship. Again, please check trigger warnings before going into this one. This one's very, very dark, which is why I hesitated to put it on here, but it's one that I really ended up liking. Next up, we have sort of a classic. We have The Frat Boy by Nikki Sloan. Now, I'll just put it out there. I think anything you read in the Nashville Neighbors series in general, or anything from Nikki Sloan, is pretty much gonna be one of the spiciest books you've ever read. But this one in particular is my favorite from the series, so it's the one I want to highlight. This involves some sex work, it involves enemies to lovers, it's new adult, and the premise of this is that Colin and Madison are part of the Greek life at their college. So they are in the middle of Greek week, and both of their houses are really desperate to earn the prize money that is associated with Greek week. Madison has also recently gotten out of a pretty messy breakup with someone else in Colin's fraternity. Things really come to a head when they are on an obstacle course and someone cheats, and it leads to an all-out war. Mud goes flying, and it results in the Greek houses needing to discipline someone and hold them accountable for how everything went down, and they ultimately kick out both Colin and Madison from their houses, which means they now no longer have a place to live, which is unfortunate. And for various reasons, they are not able to go to their parents to ask for money. Both of them respond to the same ad, which offers housing in exchange for making some spicy content. Little do they know that the other has actually applied for the same position until they go to do their audition. Nikki Sloan did a great job of building the relationship using these different spicy scenes, and I was really impressed with her ability to do that. I will say that the doctor and the pool boy are just as spicy. The pool boy has some more plot, so really you can go to any of these in the series, but the Frat Boy's the least read one that when I was looking online, and it's my favorite. Next up, I have Hawk by Jessie Hall. So this is a dark romance with some light romantic suspense or mystery elements to it, and a little bit of a love triangle. Nicole and Patrick have been living in Patrick's hometown after graduating college, and they live a pretty quaint life. Patrick comes from a very affluent and religious family, but they live a pretty cozy life. This quaint life is very abruptly interrupted with the introduction of a new housemate. That housemate is Hawk. He is nothing like Patrick and Nicole. He smokes, he drinks, he does drugs, he's tattooed, and most of all, he's an ex-con. With this abrupt introduction, tension is at an all-time high, but slowly, as they get to know each other, Nicole starts questioning whether she's really been making decisions for herself in her life, or if she's just been kind of going along with what Patrick wants. Next up, I have Minx by Sophie Lark. So this is a recent release from Sophie Lark. This has got some billionaires, some sex work, some pet play, which I wasn't a biggest fan of. This is about Ramses, who is a self-made billionaire. He becomes enraptured by an escort by the name of Blake. Blake has been trying to get him on the hook for years, and she's so excited that he's finally noticed her, but he's thrown a wrench in her plans. He wants to be her only client. He will do whatever it takes to play by his own rules. They come to a decision eventually, but slowly their agreement is becoming more and more of their personal lives. I will say the pet play element is the most intense at the beginning. So just a heads up, that does kind of dissipate for the most part as the further you get into the book. I got a little like, with it, because it's not my thing. I did just want to give you a heads up about that because that part is pretty strong. Next up, I have What Was Meant to Be by QB Tyler. This is age gap, parents' best friend. And we have Whitney, who is sending out her wedding invitations. She is happily engaged. She sends an invitation to JP, who is her parents' best friend, her godparent, and also her ex-boyfriend. When JP ends up getting this invitation, he says, "No, you're mine, and I'm gonna go win you back. I wanted to stay away, but now I just can't." With that in mind, he goes to break up and stop this wedding. Again, QB Tyler is another one that, regardless of what book you're gonna pick up by her, it's probably gonna be pretty spice heavy, but she always has a solid plot to hers as well, which is why I really enjoy a lot of her books. She does a lot with taboo, so if that's not your thing, maybe check out her most recent release with the Bodyguard Romance. I'll put a photo here. I've heard that that one is a probably her least taboo one to date. So a little bit of variety for you, but I will say I haven't read that one yet. Next up, we have Baby and the Late Night Howlers. This is an Omegaverse that's a polyamorous white shoes, a lot of words, and motorcycle club. The premise of this is that Baby believes that she is a beta, but she finds out when she's at a bar full of alphas that she's going into heat for the first time. She's a late bloomer. She's actually an Omega. This puts her in a ton of danger. Thankfully, there's a beta nearby that helps her get to safety, and it helps get her to an agency that'll match her with a pack. That pack that she ends up matching with ends up being the motorcycle club, who has given up on finding their Omega, called the Late Night Howlers. I will say, this is extremely spice heavy. There is almost no plot to this, but what can you expect from an Omegaverse white shoes? Next up, I have Saint by Sierra Simone. Once again, Sierra Simone, pretty much anything you pick up by her is going to be extremely spice heavy. Saint just happens to be my all-time favorite book from her, but I know a lot of people prefer Sinner, which is, I think, more popular, but it's Saint for me. This one tends to be a little bit heavier, so just a heads up. So this is an MM romance. It has themes of religion and mental health, specifically depression. Can be a little heavy, but it's still got a ton of spice. So Aiden gives up his billionaire ways to become a monk very abruptly. He's actually just shy of officially taking his vows. Right around this time, his ex-boyfriend comes back into his life and lets him know that he's getting married. And this really sends Aiden into a tailspin. He is caught between trying to find a cloister where he can be a monk for the rest of his life, or being with the man that he loves. Making this decision even harder is his ex-boyfriend is writing an article about beer production at different monasteries and decides to tag along with him on his travels to find a monastery that suits what he's looking for. There's some forced proximity, they're spending a ton of time together, but again, this one is heavy. There is a lot of time spent on Aiden's mental health. So just heads up, please take care of yourselves and always be a responsible reader and check triggers. Next up, I have Glitch by Brianna Michael. This is on the shorter side. It's a little bit more of a novella. This is hackers, gamers, friends to lovers. It's so yummy. So this is about Glitch, who has had his eye on Ara, who is a gal that he has been gaming with for quite some time now. They've never seen each other in person. One day, Ara's computer breaks, which is so convenient because Glitch, he owns a computer repair store. He says, you know what, Ara, come bring in your computer. Let's bring into the real world. While Ara is so excited to meet Glitch in person, she's very captivated by him and his deep, smoky voice. She just got out of a terrible relationship and she doesn't know if she's ready to be with someone yet. So this one's great if you're looking for something short, spicy. There's still some very sweet and emotional scenes, and I love this hero. He is an absolute cinnamon roll. And finally, we're leaving off on the duet that I will never shut up about. It's Losers by Harley LaRue. Yeah, I'm bringing it up again. I don't know that I'll ever stop. Tropes and themes here. This is about kink exploration. If the kink exists, it is explored in this duet, including electrocution. This is a polyamorous white shoes. There's a lot of panem by men. It's dark and it takes place in a small town. This is primarily about Jessica, and she was kind of the mean girl in school. She was the cheerleader, and she is back in town for the summer. She is continuing to hang out with the same people she did in high school, with the same attitudes. Even though she doesn't really fit in with this crowd, she's forcing herself to go along with their schemes. In the process, she ends up running into the losers of the town, and she ends up owing them for a various number of reasons. And in order to pay off her debts, she decides to become theirs for the summer. And worse yet, she has a history with the head of the losers, Manson. This is one that I absolutely love. All of the men have such different voices. Manson is kind of like your dark emo kid with his combat boots. You've got a gamer, you've got a hippie kid, you have like a kid from the trailer parks. It's just, oh, it's so yummy. Thank you so much for being here. These are the spiciest books that I remember reading. Don't forget, like this video if you like it, subscribe if you want more content from me, and comment below and let me know what the spiciest book you've ever read is. I'm really curious. Is it something different? Thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you on my next video. Bye-bye.